Allie Bloyd here, and if you are wondering what changes are coming down the pike with Facebook and Instagram ads in 2022, this video is going to cover everything that we know so far. Facebook and Instagram ads are unfortunately, and sometimes fortunately, always changing, which can make it difficult to know what you need to do to adjust, but also how that's going to impact your on-screen experience when you are creating campaigns, or maybe, like myself, have training videos on these different things. You need to know what's changing so that you can update your content. So today we're going to cover those changes, and we are going to start with the rollout of ODACs. So ODACs is Facebook's new outcome-based ads manager dashboard. So this is actually going to change the way your screen looks when you go to create a new ad campaign. So this is essentially taking their 11 previous Facebook ad objectives and consolidating these objectives into 6 objectives that all have outcomes associated with them. So we now will have awareness, traffic, engagement, leads, app promotion, and sales as our new objectives to choose from. So leads had previously been the lead generation objective with a Facebook lead form. It was the only objective that you could select if you wanted to use the Facebook lead form. So now they're essentially taking that lead generation objective, messages objective, and conversions objective, and it's going to go into that single leads objective. And as far as I know, we will actually be able to select multiple destinations for the same ad inside of a single campaign, going to different places. So previously, if I selected the lead generation objective because I wanted to test running my ads to a lead form, I would also have to create a second campaign for conversions, even if this was all focused on the same outcome, it was focused on the same offer. There was really no difference besides one of them was being driven to a landing page or a funnel. The other one was driven to that lead form. So now we are going to be able to access some of those same destinations within a single campaign. So that is going to help simplify your ad account structure, which I feel is very important for a lot of people running ads. Things are too crowded, too cluttered. They have 1,000 different campaigns when they really don't need them. And while I do have only a handful of very specific campaigns that I run, I do have to have essentially duplicate campaigns if I am testing or just running a different objective for the same exact type of ad. So that can be a benefit. I would say the downside is that you are going to have to get used to a new view in the Ads Manager dashboard. So this is going to be a slow rollout over 2022. So some of you may already have this rollout. Some of you may not get it until the end of the year, but that is something to be looking for. So you really want to familiarize yourself with exactly what is possible with these new different ad objectives. So one example that I can give to you from Facebook directly is going to be the brand awareness, reach, and video views will now fall into that awareness category. Traffic is still going to be traffic. That is its own. That is the only thing that goes inside of it. So for engagement, we can use video views, we can use messages, and conversions can also be selected in engagement. So that's a little bit unusual, but I would say that, we'll see how that goes. App installs is now directly going to app promotion. Lead generation, messages, and conversions, like I mentioned, those will all be accessible through leads. And then we will also have conversions, catalog sales, and store traffic all going to that sales tab. So in my example, where I said sometimes I've got a lead generation campaign and a conversions campaign that are the exact same, I would be selecting the leads objective, because even though I still have access to conversions in sales, I would not have access to lead generation. So it really depends on exactly what the flow of your funnel is and what you're trying to accomplish, but they're now going to be consolidated into those 6 different ad objectives. So be prepared for that. They have also removed 4 categories for detailed interest-based targeting. So those 4 different categories are health causes. So this is not health conditions. This is going to be things like someone interested in Breast Cancer Awareness Day, or they support the Foundation for Leukemia Research. Those targeting options will no longer be available. Sexual orientation is the next one. So again, this is not someone who has posted their sexual orientation on their profile. These are more things about groups that they're interested in or different topics of interest that they have actually expressed interest in on these platforms. That will no longer be available. Religious practices is another one, and this is potentially one that could impact a lot of businesses. So this is, again, not someone who said, this is my religion, and you're not able to target people who express interest in that religion. It could be that they have liked the Pope or the Catholic Church, or shared that they participate in Hanukkah, or like different pages related to Hanukkah. Even potentially Easter related activities. We're not necessarily sure how many of these options will be removed based on these categories, but it's not just these specific targeting options will be gone. There are a lot of specific options that fall in these categories that will be removed. So we will just have to see exactly what is removed as this rolls out. And if you fall into any of these categories as I'm going through them, you really should take note that you need to check what your interest targeting is and consider what that may do to your existing ad sets, and also get started on some testing for other targeting options. So political beliefs is the next one. And again, this is not just about targeting a specific political party. It's about different public figures, different organizations, different social causes that they consider related to a specific political party. So those things are also going to be gone. I have supported in the past removing some of the targeting options, such as the options that were removed after iOS 14's update. And the reason for that is that I feel that when interest targeting is based on third-party data, that it is not in the best interest of the consumer, even if it benefits advertisers. So we are not all just marketers or business owners. We're also consumers and users of these platforms. So sometimes there has to be a trade-off between what we want as a marketer or a business owner and what's actually good for our society and for people like us, especially those who are not in this space professionally and may not understand how their data is being used. So with third-party options and information impacting targeting, that could be your bank or financial institution or your internet service provider actually sharing your personal information with Facebook and Instagram, which they were doing. And those pieces of information that you did not know were shared is how you ended up in certain targeting categories. I do not feel that that's right, and I fully support the removal of those options because, again, although there were ways to opt out of some of those things, it was definitely hard to find. It was not clear. Most people would have no idea that it was even taking place, let alone learn how to prevent that from being tracked. Facebook and Instagram were tracking you across all of the different websites that you were going to, the different places that you were logging into. And that is such an invasion of privacy because, again, no one explicitly ever gave them consent to do that. So that is where I've always supported focusing on things that can be targeted using first-hand data, such as information people are sharing or actions they're taking on those platforms specifically. And so what that means is a page that they liked on Facebook, or accounts that they follow on Instagram, or maybe accounts that they engage with really heavily on Instagram. Those are things that Facebook and Instagram know firsthand, not by getting data from anyone else, that people are voluntarily sharing on those platforms. I feel that that information is perfectly appropriate to use in targeting. There are also, gender, sexuality based options that have kind of been added even into profile settings at this point. And so if someone is voluntarily sharing that information, then I believe that there is nothing wrong with targeting them based on that. However, a lot of these things that they are removing, health causes, sexual orientation, religious practices, political beliefs, those are things that people follow accounts or like pages related to it. They engage with content related to those things. They may talk about those things or share those things on their own. Even still, we will no longer be able to target based on those 4 categories. And based on everything that I've read, it is not because any consumers have complained about it or advertisers have brought this up as an issue, but actually as just a response to pressure from certain groups who likely have no dog in this fight, so to speak, who say that they should not allow people to be targeted based on these options without really asking anyone else how they feel about it. So I feel that Facebook is always great at caving to pressure from people who are not the ones paying them money, which is the only way they make money. And it's also not their users that are complaining about it. It's these unrelated groups that feel that they have some sort of say in what a platform like Facebook or Instagram does, that has nothing to do with legal issues or ethical issues. And Facebook has clearly had plenty of those. But in this case, I don't think any of that applies. It's really going to hurt certain types of businesses because you want to know if the people you're targeting are the right fit. If you are selling something related to the Hanukkah traditions, and now you're no longer able to target people based on their interest in that holiday, then you're going to have a much harder time finding the right fit. And on the reverse, if you're someone who practices Hanukkah traditions, you will probably be pleased to discover new products or services related to that you didn't know about and that maybe you would be really excited to use. So it is depersonalizing the experience in a lot of ways. And again, not really based on any significant issues from consumers or businesses, but really just third parties telling Facebook and Instagram, we don't think you should be able to target people based on their political interest or the public figures that they follow. We don't like that. And they've said, okay, that's fine. We'll remove them. So, whether you love it or you hate it, that is what it is. And this is something that is coming pretty soon down the pike. So if your ad sets were already created by January 19th, you will not see any impact on those until mid-March. You can still increase or decrease the budget, change the name, things like that, but you cannot edit the ads and republish. So keep that in mind. If you've got some of those running, you have about 2 more months before you really need to change some things if the existing ads and ad sets that you're running are working. So you just do not want to touch those until that time comes. But in the meantime, you want to start testing some other targeting options ASAP so that this will not have a negative impact on you and the performance of your ads. So the next change is the social issue ads. So this is not related to what we just discussed. This is about ads being classified as social issue ads. And most people would assume that, that's just related to political campaigns or different things like that. And while some of that does apply, that is not the only thing that applies. So a lot of times a business that may have some sort of social issue either related to their product, or maybe it's just an angle they talk about in their ad copy or their creative because it has a direct tie-in and it's part of their marketing messaging because it's something their audience would care about, and then they can tie that in with their product or service. So a lot of times those businesses in those ads were being classified as social issue ads, which means they had to go through a verification process, and they would have to sometimes have a paid for by label on those ads, and it just made it much more difficult. So they are still keeping those requirements for different businesses or social causes where it applies. However, they are removing the requirement with certain specifications. So this is one that is a little bit more confusing because the way that they're classifying who it applies to and who it doesn't apply to is a little bit confusing. So the things that they are looking for to allow you to bypass this verification process is that a product or service is prominently shown in your ad and is referenced or named in the ad. So the second one is that the primary purpose of the ad is to sell a product, promote a service or an event, even if the ad content includes advocacy for a specific political issue, and the ad's call to action is about buying the product or the service. So if you have some sort of social issue or a political issue related to your business, this means that you need to focus more on selling things through your ad as opposed to encouraging people to learn more or to register for a free webinar or something like that. So here are a couple of examples that they give. Again, a little bit confusing, but these examples are the best way that I can illustrate what this will actually mean. So things that will still be considered social issue ads. The copy follows. Our speaker series for this year is starting soon. John Smith, economist and founder of a leading finance publication, will speak about the latest market fluctuation and today's need for tax reform in the United States. Visit our website to learn more. That will still be classified as a social issue ad, and the reason being is that it does not promote the sale of any tickets or any other product or service, but discusses a social issue, which they consider the economy to be a social issue. This is also going to remain a social issue ad. So one that is similar but will no longer be classified as a social issue ad reads as follows. Our new show, Our Only Future on How We Can Tackle Climate Change, will premiere next month in your city. Purchase your early bird tickets now for $10. So the reason that that will not be considered a social issue ad is because it contains a call to action about a purchase, which is the early bird ticket, and the title of the show is not advocating for a social issue. So this is something you also want to consider when you're titling your events or your webinars or anything like that you might be promoting, because they're looking at the name of your show, but they're also looking about if you're actually selling something. So if we go back to the previous example about John Smith, the economist, how do we want to take that and turn that into something not classified as a social issue ad? Well, we would say, instead of visit our website to learn more, we would say register for this webinar series, buying your ticket for $1, click here. So if you wanted something to be free and you are a social issue related business, or at least Facebook and Instagram classifies you as a social issue type of business, then you need to start selling something, even if it is very low cost. So donations are a little bit different. If 100% of the proceeds are going directly to a social cause, that's still going to be considered a social issue ad. However, they do not say if 99% of the donations are going to a social cause that it's going to still be considered a social issue ad, which I think this is where the waters get really murky. There are a lot of people that are going to use this as a loophole, and there are a lot of people who are going to get hurt by this who really shouldn't be. So if you are a PAC or if you're an NGO or something and you want to raise money and everything you do is about social issues, well, if someone donates, most of those, they don't donate 100% of your money to the actual cause. They pocket a lot of it. And because of that, that's going to give them a free pass to slide by in a lot of these cases. If you were doing something totally free where you don't want to charge, you really just want to educate or help, or you legitimately want to give 100% of the proceeds to a certain organization, that actually hurts you. I mean, I honestly, talking through it out loud, it's like, how backwards is that? So if you're selling something and you're trying to take people's money and not offering value for free, that's okay. If you are potentially misleading people and, making them think that their money is going all towards a cause, but you're actually not sending all of it, you're keeping a lot of it, that helps you in this case. So again, their rationale is very confusing and a little bit weird, but that is the fact of how they're going to be defining this. So the next example would be one that will no longer be a social issue ad. So it reads as follows. On Earth Day, it's time for us to demand that we reduce carbon pollutions. Show your support with our new hemp t-shirts. Shop today. And there's an image of a green t-shirt with an earth illustration on it. So that's not going to be a social issue ad anymore. Okay, here's an example of one that will remain a social issue ad. Our leather patches just arrived. Each patch is embroidered with "Support Refugees. Shop now." And the "Support Refugees" message is on the product itself. Okay, so the rationale behind this is that while the ad is selling a product, which is the patch, the product includes social issue advocacy messaging, "Support Refugees," on the product itself. So if you are selling products that do have things like that on them, maybe that's not the product you want to advertise. Once you get a customer, you can always sell more to them through email and other channels, but it may not be the one that you want to put front and center, or you could do things that are more graphic illustrations that people know what they mean, but they are not necessarily advocating for a social issue on that piece of clothing or on that product itself. So this is, really getting me thinking about a lot of things that are going to be classified as social issues that will no longer be able to be sold as easily, or they'll have a much more difficult process selling them as opposed to others. So if you think of, any slogans that have become popular or things like that, if there's a t-shirt that has that on it, you're not going to be able to sell that. So again, maybe going back to more visual illustrations of things, or just finding something like that to be the products that you have front and center in your advertising so that you can bypass that type of verification process and potentially increased scrutiny on your ads. More ad rejections, I assume, is going to follow with that as well. So they're just kind of keeping a closer eye on you if you do follow into that category. So a few other things that they've come out with recently have been not anything that I think is going to impact people at large, really just kind of attempting to strengthen their promises to people when it comes to what they're selling through their platform. So on Marketplace, and if you are doing ads that go to a Facebook or Instagram shop, there is slightly more rigorous verification. Where that is concerned, they're trying to eliminate scam sellers or things that are being sold that are stolen, which both of those things are pretty difficult to identify overall, but that's where the verification process comes in. So if you are selling, make sure that anything new that pops up, like a notification that you have an action to complete, that those things are completed. They're also expanding their eligibility for ads about crypto. So if you are in the crypto space or you're thinking about getting into the crypto space, they're still going to have some requirements for you. There are only very specific requirements for people to be eligible to do this. They have relaxed them a little bit. Those requirements still remain, but they are trying to relax them because I think they know that they themselves are getting into the NFT space. So even though a lot of times they're hypocritical, maybe they don't want to be hypocrites in this specific circumstance. I also think that they just see the writing on the wall, that this is going to continue to grow, and they want to make those changes based on what the market is doing. I think this is going to end up being similar to the requirements that we see for financial managers, financial planners, investment companies, things like that, where very often consumers are defrauded because they do not understand what it is they're looking at or buying from, or, buying in general. So if you are a legitimate business and you go through their processes and you meet their requirements, then you are going to be able to advertise, and they should be most likely relaxing those requirements over time to allow a broader range of crypto-related businesses to advertise on the platforms. So that is really a great recap of what we have either implemented just recently or that will be rolling out to advertisers over the course of the next year. Stay tuned for more updates on what we'll be seeing in terms of those changes for Facebook and Instagram ads. They always have them coming. So this is something that we have to constantly stay up to date with if we are going to prepare ourselves, such as those audience targeting options. If you find out when it's too late, then you have not taken that time to test those other audiences to try and make sure that you're not left in a position where you have ads that are not working at all anymore and you don't know what to do next. So pay attention to these things, make any changes that you feel you need to make, or, prepare yourself for things you may have to make in the future based on what they're telling us they are rolling out. So that's all I have today for you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have any comments or questions, let me know. Make sure to subscribe to this channel to stay up to date with these changes, and hit that little notification bell to make sure you never miss a video. Thanks so much, guys, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.